Hello, my name is Barnhardt, and I am apparently one of the very, very last people left in Western civilization who possesses any quantity of brains and balls simultaneously. I saw that Senator Lindsey Graham appeared on Face the Nation this morning and said the following when asked by Bob Schieffer if there was anything that could be done about Americans burning the Qur'an. Quote, "Yeah, I wish we could find some way to hold people accountable. Free speech is a great idea, but we're in a war. During World War II, you had limits on what you could say if it would inspire the enemy. Anytime we can push back here in America against actions like this that put our troops at risk, we ought to do it." Unquote. Lindsey Graham is a Republican, and if John McCain had been elected president in 2008, Lindsey Graham would be the Attorney General of the United States today. Remember this as I go forward. Let's take Graham's words sentence by sentence. First sentence, quote, "Yeah, I wish we could find some way to hold people accountable." Unquote. Hold people accountable? For what? For exercising their constitutionally protected and divinely ordained right to freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom of religion? Hey, jackass! Have you not read the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States? Here, let me read it for you. "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." So what Lindsey Graham wants to do is elevate the totalitarian political system masquerading as a religion called Islam to a status which supersedes and overrides the First Amendment to the Constitution and thus places it in a position of specially protected legal superiority wherein criticism of Islam or failure to show proper and sufficient deference and honor for Islamic texts is a crime. Hey, Lindsey, you jackass. You know what that's called? It's called Sharia. What the hell is wrong with you? I'm going to burn a Qur'an here in a moment. Lindsey, why don't you come and hold me accountable, player? Go ahead. Have me arrested for exercising my First Amendment rights. Drag me before Congress and hold me to account. Do it. Nothing would make me happier. I would relish the opportunity to explain to you how exactly it is that we do things in the United States of America. If you want to pick a fight, sir, you go right ahead. But understand that if you pick a fight with me, the only way it ends is with you sobbing in the men's room. Next quote. "Free speech is a great idea, but we're in a war." Unquote. Free speech is a great idea? It is a bedrock principle of Western civilization and the United States. Individuals are free, sovereign agents. Individuals are not property or drones of the state. The government doesn't tell the people what to think and say. The people tell the government what to think and say through the mechanisms of representative republic governance under the Constitution. But what I suspect this really has to do with is intellectual snobbery and elitism. Lindsey Graham, you look at Terry Jones and you see a redneck with a handlebar mustache who speaks with a southern drawl without the benefit of a fancy Ivy League education. And you determine that a man like him cannot be trusted with his own personal intellectual sovereignty under the First Amendment, and therefore you, in your superior intellectual state, have to rein him in. Listen, jackass, it doesn't work that way. The First Amendment applies to all American citizens equally. It does not operate on a sliding scale based upon how expensive an education one received, what one's income is, or whether or not one is invited to Tony soirees in Georgetown. But if that's the game you want to play, that's fine. If you want to go head-to-head with a person of intellectual parity, I'm your huckleberry. Come after me. Debate me. I stand foursquare with Terry Jones and am proud to do so. Next sentence, quote, "During World War II, you had limits on what you could say if it would inspire the enemy." Unquote. Lindsay, you jackass. The only prohibitions on speech during World War II and all other wars pertain to speech which would give aid and comfort to the enemy, not speech which demoralized, discouraged, or degraded the enemy. Have you ever seen the World War II era posters depicting the Japanese as Japs and the Nazis as bloodthirsty animals? Have you never seen the Warner Brothers cartoons? Yes, that's right, Looney Tunes, produced during the war that ruthlessly mocked and degraded the Germans, Italians, and Japanese? The informal prohibition during the war was on speech that was defeatist or conciliatory towards the enemy, which is exactly what you are engaging in, you stupid, stupid jackass. Next sentence, quote, anytime we can push back here in the United States against actions like this that put our troops at risk, we ought to do it. Unquote. Push back? Since the free speech in question is by a loyal, law-abiding American citizen against the sworn enemy of the United States and its Constitution, which is Islam, and you, Senator Graham, are talking about pushing back using the force of the government of the United States, it sure sounds to me like you have decided that the United States government is allied with Islam against the people of the United States who do not show sufficient deference and respect for Islam. Senator Graham, you can take your dimitude and shove it up your ass. And don't you dare accuse patriotic Americans who are exercising their First Amendment rights of putting our troops at risk. The only thing that is putting our troops at risk are the suicidal, defeatist rules of engagement which prevent our brave soldiers from actually fighting and defeating the enemy. You hang our boys out on the lines of battle and then refuse to give them ammunition, refuse to allow them to engage the enemy without permission from a flipping attorney, and refuse to allow them to engage civilians while fighting a force that is 100% comprised of civilians. How dare you accuse us of putting our troops at risk? Final quote. So I look forward to working with Senator Kerry and Reid and others to condemn this, condemn violence all over the world based in the name of religion, unquote. I have just one question. What act of violence did Terry Jones or Ann Barnhardt perpetrate? Did we kill anyone? Did we assault anyone? Did we saw anyone's head off? What act of violence did we perpetrate? How is burning paper with ink on it an act of violence? How is this object made of paper equivalent to the life of a human being? Are you honestly arguing that tearing and burning a book is equivalent to killing and beheading a human person? What is the matter with you? Do you know why we Christians don't get too terribly upset about people who burn Bibles or create horrific sacrilegious images using Christian symbols? Because we understand that a Bible can be reprinted and that an image is just an image. The image of a crucifix submerged in a jar of urine makes us sad. And sad not because we believe that it's physically Jesus being drowned in urine. It makes us sad because of the implied hatefulness, misery, and despair of the artist who would do such a thing and the patrons who would applaud it. Christians don't want to kill Robert Mapplethorpe while he was still alive. We wanted to pray for him so that he would come to know God and be released from his obvious torment so that hopefully we could all be together in heaven someday. This is why we are burning the Qur'an, because it is the manifesto of an evil totalitarian political system, and it enslaves human beings in a culture of misery, hopelessness, perversion, despair, true violence, and unnatural death. And if you weren't such a monumental jackass, Senator Graham, and didn't spend all of your time kissing the ass of the very political system that would cut your throat in a heartbeat, maybe you would understand that.